Greetings, students and researchers. If you have seen already part 1 of this topic, then welcome back. If you have not seen part 1, then welcome front. When last we left off, we had begun a list for you of the likenesses and unlikenesses between the Dutch Golden Age movement and the Baroque movement. Number 2, we begin with now. Number 2, the anti-Bible movement was launched at the Council of Trent. It was that anti-Bible movement and at the Council of Trent that gave birth to the Baroque movement. Difference number 3, the freedom versus absolutism. The Baroque movement is associated with absolutism, which means dominance through threat of punishment and violence, and a form of government wherein the ruler is an absolute dictator. The Dutch Golden Age is, on the other hand, associated with freedom and the Dutch Republic. Difference number 4, Bible versus the Babylonian system led by the papacy. Quote, but the existence of important Baroque art and architecture in non-absolutist and Protestant, that's their word for people who follow the Bible, as opposed to the papists who follow other sources of pretended or alleged authority. Let's start that one over again. But the existence of important Baroque art and architecture in non-absolutist and Protestant states throughout Western Europe underscores its widespread popularity, end quote from Wikipedia. That is to say, Baroque art and architecture was popular all over Europe, both in the absolutist and in the Bible-believing places. Dutch painting of the Golden Age was done in the European time of Baroque painting. Much of the Dutch Golden Age painting has many Baroque traits. Nevertheless, it differs from Baroque in its heritage from earlier painting of the lowlands. The heritage of the Dutch Golden Age painting differs from the Baroque in that I gotta start that one over again. I don't even understand that sentence. Nevertheless, it, that is, the Dutch Golden Age painting, differs from Baroque in that the Dutch Golden Age painting inherited its traits from the earlier painting of the lowlands, and Baroque did not. The self-same heritage from the lowlands is the showing of the realistic scenes rather than ideal scenes with much detail. So the Baroque like to show ideal scenes, the Dutch Golden Age and the lowlands earlier paintings like to show realistic scenes. Unlike many other whereabouts and times, many kinds of painting were made. in the Dutch Golden Age movement. Most of the artists kept within one or another of these many kinds. The fullest growth of the aforesaid specialization was since the late 1620s. The core of Golden Age painting was from the late 1620s until the French invasion of 1672. For the first time in the saga of Europe was but precious little of religious painting. Why? Dutch Calvinism forbade religious painting in churches. Biblical subjects were acceptable in private homes. Nevertheless, but few religious paintings were made. And later on, possibly in part 3, we might see why that was, or one of the reasons of why. Paintings of history and of portraits were done in the Golden Age, even as traditionally they had been done before. Nevertheless, in the time were done more a huge variety of other kinds. Said kinds were undercleft into sundry specialized underkinds. Said kinds were undercleft into sundry specialized underkinds. Here are some examples. Example number 1. Scenes of peasant life. Landscapes. Townscapes. Landscapes with animals. Maritime paintings. Flower paintings. Still lifes of sundry kinds. Those were the examples of the underkinds into which the kinds were undercleft. Elsewhere, the Dutch artists of the 1700 years of our Lord bent the painters of later times into their own mold. At the time, folks knew of a thought called the ranking of kinds in painting. By that thought, some kinds of painting were thought to be more prestigious than were others. Thus, many painters wanted to make paintings of saga. Paintings of saga were the hardest to be sold. Many artists thus made portraits or common scenes. The latter, the common scenes, were sold much more easily. In rank, higher to lower, the kinds in the ranking were: the highest one was saga painting, with also religious subjects. This was thought the most highly of. Next was portrait painting. Next was common painting, or scenes of everyday life. Next in the rank, next lower in the rank, was landscape and cityscape. A note about that by Samuel van Hoogstraten. Landscapes were the, quote, common footmen in the army of art, end quote. And the lowest of all types of painting in the esteem of the artists of the day were still life. That's all for now. Look forward to part 3. Thank you for listening.